everybody. So this morning, the government released its monthly report on inflation, known as the Consumer Price Index.
So CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger, she joins us now from New York to break down the results. What did the data show in January? Was it promising? Not so much?
It was a little disappointing, not a lot disappointing. The inflation rate increased to 3% from a year ago, and that's up from 2.9% in the previous month. And most of the responsibility of that increase really has the shelter component. And shelter is actually coming down when it comes to the price increases, but it's just still a huge part of every family's budget, like what you pay for your housing. The core rate removes food and energy. That's at 3.3% from a year ago, higher than December's 3.2%. Yes, we're going to have a moment for eggs, I promise. Yeah, eggs are expensive. That avian flu has just really wreaked havoc on egg prices, up by 15% in the month and by 50% year over year. Hey, but I got great news. Cereal prices were down in January. Ditch the eggs. Eat the oatmeal. It's very good for you, oatmeal. So it's okay. You can get rid of some part of protein. You can find protein elsewhere.
I like that advice. Ditch the eggs, have the oatmeal instead.
There you go. And of course, we've been talking a lot about tariffs. What are the recent tariffs? What kind of impact will that have on steel and aluminum and inflation?
Steel and aluminum actually only account for a fractional part of U.S. imports, but I think like the big picture that concerns economists, if you look at everything that's been announced, including stuff that's frozen right now, the tariffs, the retaliations, all of that could push our inflation rate higher, maybe closer to 3.5% later this year, if everything goes into effect and it stays there for a few months. So if it's just like a few weeks, it's not going to be a big deal. But if we see sustained tariffs in place, we are going to pay the price in a higher inflation rate.
Jill, I'm curious because we were talking about this before we came on, but the stock market, it did in fact open down some 400 points this morning. I also know the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, he recently testified before Congress. How would you say he described the current conditions right now of our economy?
So he said the economy is continuing to expand. It's at a solid pace. The labor market is stabilized. He said inflation remains somewhat elevated. I think with that backdrop, with the looming impact of potential tariffs, Fed said they're not in a hurry to adjust interest rates anytime soon. Just a quick note about the stock prices. Every time we have a data release and markets go down, they go up, the initial reaction is often reversed soon after. So don't get too burdened by any of this. And if you're a long-term investor, please stick to that game plan. And you don't have to really worry about the day-to-day, even the month-to-month. You got a long-term investment horizon. Keep going.
Plan the long game. Jill, as always, we appreciate your insight. You can see Jill regularly on CBS Mornings and the CBS Evening News. For more analysis, you can go to JillOnMoney.com.